He said we met by chance at a bookstore on a rainy day. For years, I believed that. I believed we were just two strangers who happened to collide in the right moment. But 3 years later, after a few too many drinks, he confessed the truth. He'd been watching me, he'd studied me, and our chance meeting was anything but an accident. We met at a bookstore, or at least that's what I believed for the first 3 years of our relationship. It was raining, and I was tucked into the back corner of the used fiction aisle, flipping through a dog-eared copy of The Bell Jar. He stepped around the end cap, smiled nervously, and asked if I'd ever read it. He said he liked my taste in books. We started talking, and somehow it just flowed. We shared coffee at the tiny cafe next door and exchanged numbers. That night, I remember thinking how strangely serendipitous it all felt, like one of those right place, right time meet cutes people write about. I had no idea it was all planned. We dated slowly at first. He was kind, thoughtful, a little shy, and incredibly attentive. He always remembered the little things, my favorite flavor of tea, the books I kept on my nightstand, even the brand of pens I liked for journaling. I thought it was sweet that he listened carefully. I had no idea he already knew. 3 years passed and we moved in together. We were both in our late 20s, comfortable in our routines, and while I wasn't ready to get married yet, I could see that day coming. We were happy, or at least I was. Looking back now, I realized there were small things that didn't quite add up. Moments where he knew things I didn't remember telling him. Jokes he made about places I hadn't mentioned yet. But I chalked it up to coincidence, to my own bad memory. We trust the people we love. We let them in without suspicion. Everything changed one night after dinner at a friend's house. He had one too many glasses of wine and got unusually quiet on the ride home. When we got in, I went to wash my face while he collapsed on the couch. A few minutes later, I heard him laughing low and slow, like he was remembering a private joke. I asked what was so funny. He said, it's wild how long I waited to talk to you. I froze. Something about his tone made the hairs on my neck stand up. I asked what he meant, and at first he brushed it off, said he meant before the bookstore, that he'd seen me in there a few times, but never had the courage to say anything. I smiled. That sounded sweet, but something inside me wouldn't let it go. Wait, I said. You said you liked The Bell Jar. Had you read it before we met? He looked up and smirked, almost proudly. Not really. I just knew you liked it. I'd seen you reading it the week before. At that same spot in the store, I made sure to be there again. I figured I'd try my luck. It was like the temperature in the room dropped. I sat down slowly. What do you mean you saw me the week before? I've never seen you there before that day. He shrugged, casually. I used to come by when I knew you'd be there. I'd seen you walking that route after work. You always stopped in around the same time. I noticed you a few weeks before that near your apartment, actually. You had this yellow scarf on, and I thought, wow, she's something. My stomach twisted. I couldn't speak. I just stared at him as he kept talking, like he was confessing a romantic gesture. I figured you were single, he said. You always walked alone. You looked like someone worth knowing. You followed me? I finally whispered. He frowned at that. No, it wasn't like that. I mean, I noticed your schedule. I walked the same street a few times. Yeah, maybe I stood outside the cafe you always went to a couple times. But I was just, I don't know, curious. I stood up. I couldn't breathe. He stood too, suddenly realizing how it sounded. Hey, wait. I didn't do anything bad. I never approached you before that day. I was drawn to you. That's not wrong, right? It was wrong. All of it. I had built an entire relationship on what I thought was chance. Compatibility, mutual interest, and now I was realizing that the foundation had been planned, rehearsed, manipulated. I went to bed that night without speaking another word. The next day, I looked through everything, my messages. My journals. I checked my location history and realized I had posted a photo on Instagram from the cafe he mentioned 2 days before we met. A photo I'd forgotten about. A yellow scarf was clearly visible on my lap. That day, I noticed he had liked it. I confronted him again, this time with everything. I asked him if he'd followed me, if he'd known my apartment building, if he'd memorized my routine. He swore it was just a coincidence at first, but the more I pushed, the more came out. He admitted he had seen me on the train, that he'd followed me off once, that he'd figured out where I lived, just the building, not your unit, and that he had walked by a few times, that he had seen me through the bookstore window once and realized it was his chance to make it organic. I didn't know what to do. It wasn't illegal. He hadn't physically harmed me, but emotionally, spiritually, I felt violated. Like my entire past with him had been rewritten without my consent. I didn't feel safe, not because I thought he'd hurt me, but because I realized he had never actually met me. He created the version of me he wanted and slipped into my life wearing the costume of a kind stranger. I moved out a week later. He begged me to stay. He said he loved me. He swore it was harmless, that everyone has a crush before they speak to someone, but I couldn't unhear the truth. I couldn't undo the sense that I'd been studied, observed, then collected, like an actor cast in someone else's script. It's been over a year now. I haven't spoken to him since, but I still look over my shoulder in bookstores, still second guess the people who bump into me, still wonder if I'd ever met the real him or if he ever wanted me to meet the real me. Because love without choice isn't love at all. It's just possession. What would you do if you found out your entire relationship was built on surveillance and lies? Was she right to leave, or was there room for forgiveness? Drop your take in the comments. And if you're into emotional true stories with raw drama and moral twists, hit subscribe to Saga Short Form, where every story hits you right in the heart.